All right, it is 12 o'clock. It's time to begin. For those of you that don't know who I am, welcome. I'm Caroline Best, founder of the Tao Horsemanship, and welcome to my new podcast, Wisdom of Tao, the Way of Inner Alchemy. So if you need to find out more about me, the Tao Horsemanship, or what this podcast is all about, please check out the first episode. This is episode number 3. Spiritual awakening. It's about spiritual awakening. So check out episode 1. And then, of course, episode 2 was about humility and the path to authenticity, letting go of the ego. All righty. So feel free to, as I've mentioned in the chat, welcome, Jen. Leave your comments, your questions. I knew a Jennifer Jones from Virginia and Maryland many 20 some years ago. So you have the same name, but you're from a different place and you're brand new to my channel. So welcome. Know that everything in this podcast is a way of being for me. So in my 50 plus years of life here, I'm 57. I've been a practicing Taoist since I was 15, 16 years old. I did not know about Dr. Wayne Dyer, of course, back then. I did not know about him, and he did not become a practicing Taoist until later in life. And I did not know about the Tao Te Ching either. So I am relatively new to both of them as of the last 4 years. What I love about both Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is no longer here, he's passed away, what I love about his teachings, and I have several of his books, you can find them on Amazon. And he still has his Facebook, it still has millions of followers. So I don't know who's keeping that alive, but you can follow his Facebook too. What I love about him, and it speaks so much to my soul, is I'm going to grab the books right now, is his way of understanding. And let's see, I think I have these. His way of understanding and interpreting Taoism and the Tao Te Ching, which is very complicated. Today, I'm going to jump in a little bit more in depth about the Tao Te Ching, but it's not going to be exactly my words. I'm going to give you someone else that I follow lightly because he does a brilliant job of breaking down the book. This is like the Bible. So I'll give you a little bit of a history of, again, of how the Tao Te Ching came about. And this is going to be backwards, but I Ching, the Book of Changes. And there's many different translations. Oh my gosh. In many different books, you have to find the one that either resonates with you, or I found mine through Dr. Wayne Dyer and through a couple of my students. They all recommended this particular version. And the book that I am referring to a lot throughout my podcasts right now is Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, Living the Wisdom of Tao, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. He also has a great book, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, a complete Tao Te Ching, the complete Tao Te Ching and affirmation. So that's a nice read. He has many books. And then I also have Tao Te Ching Explained by Derek Lin, Lin. So that helps too if you want to understand it. Now, we're not going to dive in, like I said, to the Tao Te Ching as far as I'm no scholar on it. I am here to tell you that I'm learning about it as we go. But as a practicing Taoist, what I can tell you with the 40 some years that I've been practicing is, I walk the walk, I don't just talk the talk. This is going to be my personal experiences and wisdom, both in my life and in my life with horses, what has worked and why this has worked so well. Basically, when you follow Tao, there is no the, actually, you're not supposed to say the. When you follow Tao, you follow the way, you follow the path, and it is a natural path. And that's the whole premise of this podcast, of my teaching personally, in personal development and growth, as well as horsemanship, is how do you follow the flow? And so this has become a spiritual awakening for me. What I love about spirituality is it never ends. It just never ends. Just when you think you're beginning to become more spiritual and to access a spiritual life more easily, it does become more easy. It absolutely, but it has to become a practice in the beginning. Like anything that we want to become good at, or something that we want to become second nature, fully embodied, it has to become a practice. It's not something that you just mentally, cognitively think about. And that's a big difference with what I'm going to be talking about today. I've known a lot of students in my career, and I've known a lot of people in my life who are great conversationalists. They're so intelligent and they can remember line after line, verse after verse. They can recite paragraphs. They're huge philosophers, conversationalists. They love to debate. I love all of this. I love that. My husband is one of them. Brilliant person. But he also, like me, I'm not saying I can remember all those things. My brilliance is different. It's not textbook smart. I'd like to say my brilliance is in sharing what I'm sharing and helping you learn this way of being with yourself and all animals, everything, most specifically horses. But people that are, great philosophers that get a little too cognitive for me don't embody what I'm talking about. My husband does embody it. He's really good at that, but most people can't. They get caught up in the thought process, and this is horsemanship, the technique, the mechanics, and that is normal. It is natural for humans because we are so linear. We're so focused, and that's predatorial. And the key with horses is we've heard to nauseam that a horse is a prey animal. We understand horses are prey animals. But do you understand what that means for the horse? Do you understand how horses think and how they feel as a prey animal? They're not linear. They're not laser focused. So to get a horse in training to actually choose to connect with you and focus on you and not their surroundings is everything. It is the name of the game as far as I'm concerned. But I want it done in a way that the horse chooses to do that, that you earn that connection, that you earn that level of trust from a prey animal, that level of trust that allows them to feel safe enough to give up their instincts, to give up their senses, their eyes, their hearing, their smell, and to give you 100% of their focus. You have to earn it. What I see in most trainings still to this day, and it doesn't matter what language they use or speak or words, because words are cheap, actions are louder. Walk the walk, don't just talk the talk. What I see too often is these horses get broken down. Their spirits get broken and they become robots. How many people brag that my horse is dead broke? 99% of the time, dead broke means a dead spirit. That horse is operating out of a conditioned response. There is no presence. They are not present. They are not connected to you. They know they have learned helplessness. That is predominantly what horse training is all about. And I'm here to present something completely different, yet I still technically want to achieve the same goals as anyone else. I still want to be able to do beautiful dressage. I still want my horse to be able to have the versatility that they're okay herding horses or herding cattle, going in the ocean, going on a trail ride, taking a 2-foot log with ease and confidence, being able to neck rein as well as handle full contact, bitless, absolutely bit free. So what I'm trying to do with this podcast is weave my personal journey and experiences, my personal experiences, as well as working with thousands of 2- and 4-legged, weave their experiences into this teaching, this way of being, in the hope of promoting a level of joy and flow and harmony that we all want to achieve in our personal life and with the people and the animals we love, as well as we want our loved ones, whether they're 2- or 4-legged, to feel the same joy and ease and peace and harmony within and with us. And yeah, it is hard. It is hard because of us, because we are human. Our species is not designed to find flow. We're not designed to find flow. Nature is flow. Animals are flow. But because our cognitive abilities are stronger than our instincts and our intuitive nature, they are today, because they're stronger, because we keep overdeveloping our brain, not our heart, then we operate out of our brain. And so when you follow Taoism, it is a way of being more than it is a religion for me. I'm going to be bringing up God today as part of spiritual awakening. And I do believe in God. I was brought up Catholic, um, didn't really care for Catholicism, even though I was confirmed. That was my mother's choice, not mine. And it certainly didn't help me. Prayer did. Prayer absolutely helped me when I was having all of my difficulties as a teenager and shutting down and having massive panic attacks. Prayer did help, but so did learning Taoism and meditation. That opened my whole world. It allowed me through meditation to be able to feel and experience somatically through my body, not through my mind. And in a way that allowed me to connect to my backyard horse, Brandy, my cat, my dog, every animal in such a deeper, more profound, more meaningful, and enriching way for both of us. This is also, as woo-wooey as this sounds, for those of you that know me, I think you know that I'm a pretty balanced person. I'm very honest. I can be emotional, but I'm also really balanced. I mean, the artistic side in me is, I think, just as strong as the left side, the business side, the more concrete, black and white, logical side within me. And so I'm bringing that up because there is an absolute truth to telepathy and being able to speak with any being without speaking out loud. So I'll give you a perfect example, and you all can comment or think about this on your own. But how many of us, because I know with my students, how many of us are really empathetic, so empathetic, so empathetic that it's hard for us to like look at something that hurts us or bothers us, or be in a room with people that bother us or stress us out. Okay, I think most of us would raise our hand to that, to say, yeah, it's really difficult for me to be around uncomfortable situations, whatever they are. Wouldn't you like to live your life where you can see and feel the uncomfortability, whatever it is, but not be attached to it, and be in a situation where you don't feed off of it or feed into it, and it does not consume you? So getting back to telepathy is the ability to become so still and quiet that you are totally aligned and connected with your senses and your nervous system. For me, telepathy, being able to hear what someone's thinking, and it's very brief, it's not full sentences, but I definitely can feel and hear what the animals are speaking to, especially horses. It's all a vibration that comes through my nervous system and or my heart coherence and my heart rate variability. I refer to this often in all of my teachings, all of my videos, my blogs, as becoming a tuning fork. Horses are tuning forks. They are one of the most sophisticated prey animals there are, the most highly intelligent and sophisticated. Sophisticated, excuse me, in their nervous system. Their nervous system, the ability for them to transfer information via their senses through their nervous system and through into their brain, their neural pathways, their brain is so fast and so clear. And this is what allows them to have telepathy, so to speak, with each other. So that's why you always see herds of horses, especially wild horses that get along and choose each other, or domesticated herds that get along and choose each other. You see them close together all the time because they're sharing heart rate variability. They're sharing and this is science, they're sharing a nervous system frequency. So that if the horse they trust the most, and I'll say that can be a lead horse, but it's not always that horse, because that horse might not be the best leader in all situations. Horses really do share leadership. They really do work together as partners when it comes to those sharing leadership, let's put it that way. But they're together so they can stay connected to that frequency. So if something alerts the lead horse that's supposed to be supervising the horses, alerts them, the other horses can feel it, because in the wild, horses are supposed to be quiet. They're not supposed to whinny because that'll give them away to a predator. They're not supposed to make noise. Now they can make noise close together. How many of us have heard our horses give us those really low, intimate, guttural nickers like, They're just, God, they just give me goosebumps. So wild horses are supposed to be quiet to protect themselves from predators. Yes. So that's why the nervous system is so sophisticated. Now, I say they're highly intelligent, highly sophisticated nervous systems, but you have dolphins, you have monkeys, apes, and you have, well, they're predators, but the dolphin, I think the dolphin is a predator too. They kill sharks, but the elephant is not a predator. And look how intelligent they are. I follow elephants very closely online. So just putting that out there, it's important to give you this information as I lead into the podcast about spiritual awakening, because it is not a cognitive awakening. It is a somatic awakening. It is something that happens within your body, within your soul, within your heart chakra, within your nervous system, within all of your chakras. And, like I mentioned earlier, throughout the years, I've had beautiful, stimulating, enlightening conversations with so many people over the years. But you need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. You need to embody this presence. And when you follow the Tao Te Ching, and I'm a newbie at this, and I'm always open to anyone having a conversation with me about it, or, correcting me if that's the right word. What I'm learning is it's always about the woo-wee, which I know very well, but in a different light, not as deeply as the Tao Te Ching. So the woo-wee, and that'll become another podcast. The woo-wee is the law, for lack of a better word, of non-action. Doing, non-doing. You are in a place where you do nothing, yet you achieve everything. I know that sounds a bit tricky and complicated and not hypocritical, but it doesn't make any sense. But I'll explain as we get into this podcast. So, what I'm trying to do is set you up to lead you in for those of you that want a spiritual awakening, or maybe you've had one, but you don't know how to get back to that spiritual awakening. You've lost it. And I have certainly lost my way throughout my life. There have been things that have hurt me and been really hard on me more than once. And it is easy to lose your way. It's important, though, that once you have found the way, that you can get back. You can turn that light on and you can find your way back. That's the most important thing. We're only human, we have to work with what we intrinsically are designed to do. And unfortunately, it is not an easy life for humans. It is not an easy life. We have to choose to do better. We have to choose to learn how to be better and how to be in flow with any discourse. With any discourse. It doesn't mean you lose your virtue or your values or your morals or your way. And if you're working with horses, it doesn't mean you lose sight of what you'd like to achieve. But if we're constantly hitting everything head on and trying to control everything and make it happen in our life or in our horsemanship, we're either going to be lonely and alone because nobody or nothing's going to want to be around us, or we're just going to constantly be frustrated and find despair. So how do we find the flow? How do we find our way? So what if your greatest spiritual awakening comes not from striving, achieving, or accumulating, but from remembering? Remembering that you are not merely a human searching for spirit, for the spiritual, but an infinite spiritual being having a temporary human experience. So what if we flipped that? We're all spiritual beings. We're all part of nature. That's part of the beauty of studying the Tao Te Ching or Taoism or Buddhism. We're all part of nature. We have the same instincts, the same senses, the same nervous system as our horses, which is extremely sophisticated. This episode explores the beautiful bridge between Dr. Dyer's timeless teachings and the ancient wisdom of Tao Te Ching. Both offer a path to freedom from fear, a deeper connection with the source within you. Source can be anything. I do believe in God. The source can be whatever source of power you choose to believe in. And the invitation to live in peace, abundance, and harmony. Abundance within, feeling whole, feeling content, feeling full, feeling joyful. I'm not talking about materialistic abundance. I'm not talking about things. I'm talking about feeling great. Wow, grateful. I am grateful for where I am, what I have. Dr. Dyer believes spirituality is about Dr. Dyer believes spirituality is about prioritizing your connection to the divine source over material pursuits in the fear of death. By aligning your thoughts with the universal source and practicing faith, you can access the spiritual energy to transform your life, banish fear, and live with peace and abundance. His message is clear still to this day. As you think, so shall you be. That goes back to his famous book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. So as you think, so shall you be. Change your thoughts, you change your life. The power of intention is powerful. they still have to own that. You have to embody that. You have to feel that in your core. That's also part of manifestation. It's aligning yourself. The Tao Te Ching offers a complementary path, one that doesn't require striving for connection, but instead invites us to flow with Tao, the natural way of all things. This is a natural process that does not strive for order, control, or rules. Lao Tzu, author of Tao Te Ching, reminds us that when we practice Wu-Wei, effortless action, when we practice Wu-Wei, which is effortless action, cultivate presence, embrace paradox, oh Lord, and live with integrity, life unfolds in harmony, just as the river finds their way to the sea. Water will find its way. Together, Dr. Dyer and Lao Tzu illuminate a shared truth. I personally will share, your host will share how I weave their teachings into my personal life and my horsemanship journey. Some of the areas today that we're going to focus on is prioritizing the source, recognizing your eternal connection to spirit, and let it guide your choices. This is why prayer is so powerful. Flow with the Tao. Release resistance and control, allowing life to unfold naturally. Overcome fear. See ending not as loss, ending in anything, as loss, but as a return to infinite spirit. Transcend materialism. Move beyond striving for status and possessions into a higher spiritual frequency. Aligned thought with spirit. Remember that your inner dialogue shapes your reality. And this goes back to change your thought, change your life. Now, this is all cognitive. What I teach is how to get there. It's one thing to talk about this, and we can all say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes or no, I don't understand it. But the key here, the one word that I'd like you to walk away with today in a spiritual awakening podcast is the somatic experience of embodiment. What does it feel like? Everything I'm going to be talking about in this podcast is going to circle back to, have you ever felt this way? What does it feel like? And lastly, seek wisdom in simplicity. Let the quiet teachings of nature and Taoism ground your awareness. Now, one of these bullet points, so to speak, is overcoming fear. I'm going to talk about that right now. See endings not as loss, but as a return to infinite spirit. Okay, so I just recently, I didn't lose anything per se, but a situation changed. A major situation changed here at my farm and my facility. So this is an example, just one example of grieving and fear and being aware of my fear and allowing myself to grieve, but also maintaining an alignment with what I needed to stay in flow. So this is what I mean. My best friend here, Janine, many of you have seen her on podcasts in the last, gosh, she's been my friend for 12 years, ever since she brought her horse to me. And the beginning of August, I moved her horses to a new facility that is closer to her new home. So she no longer is here. First time, not the first time, she moved for a year before when they had a business in another state and then came back. But this is permanent because they bought a new house, but it's an hour away on the other side of town. And she found the perfect facility 1 minute away, 1 mile, 1 minute away from her house that backs up to the best trail system in Florida, the Greenway. I couldn't be selfish. Um, and it was very sad for both of us in a lot of ways because we were ending a long chapter of being together throughout the week, always being there, always seeing each other, riding together, working the horses together. Now it's going to be harder to see each other, break away from our daily lives. But yeah, we both went through a grieving process. And my point is to allow that. It's I allowed myself to cry when I wanted to cry, with or without her, and go through that grieving process. But also I kept inviting, when I say, how did I align myself with flow? It's a positivity. I kept aligning myself and remembering, you know, reminding both of us that this is the best it could be for Janine. It is the absolute best possibility. Besides having your horses in your backyard, oh my gosh. And the fact that she backs up to the best trail system in all of Florida. And it's a beautiful place. It's just great energy all the way around. So she was definitely benefiting more than me. If you want to look at it like that, I certainly did. Because she was leaving, I'm still here. Um, I'm going to be all alone now, and I'm not afraid of that. But there's a lot of change. And how do you navigate all of that? Yeah. So the key thing is we're always looking for balance, that yin and yang. There's always got to be contrast. You can be happy and you can be sad. You got to just go with the flow. And how do you allow, you might be a little sadder today and happier the next day. And what do you choose to focus on, though, is what's important. I'm not going to deny how I feel. That's not healthy. I'm going to allow myself to feel what I need to feel for as long as I need to feel. And that is it's liberation. It literally, I'm using grieving as an example, but allowing yourself to grieve whatever you're grieving, and let it come in whatever waves that it comes in, it will release itself. You're allowing that to release itself by not holding on to it, by not being resistant, by not ignoring it and pushing it aside, by allowing yourself what you naturally need to do, which is grieve, cry, do what you need to do. It will release itself more quickly. It's akin to a horsemanship saying. There's so many. Take the time it takes now because it'll take less time later. So it's like, do the work now, allow yourself whatever you need to feel now, and it will dissipate in time. It'll be easier in time. And there is no clock for anything. It's when you're ready. So that's just one example of, you know, I chose, while I felt like Janine leaving was a huge loss, and it was a huge loss on so many levels, I also was so happy for her, and I chose to feel happy for her. I chose to allow myself to feel my own grief, but also to focus on her happiness, to focus on her happiness. You have a choice. Change your thoughts, you change your life. Doesn't mean I did not allow. So this podcast, period, the wisdom of Tao, is a conversation. It's not about dogma or a rigid belief. It's about liberation. There you go. It's about surrendering to the flow of life while holding faith in the unseen power of Source. It's about letting go of fear and control and realizing that the universe knows exactly what it's doing. This is another powerful example for me in the way I live my life. And it's taken me a long time to get here, but I've been here for a while. Because it takes practice and it takes awareness. So I'm going to say this probably in every podcast. Awareness is more than 75% of any solution in life. When you become aware, it's like an aha, the light bulb goes off. Now you just have to find the tools or the skills or the knowledge to work with what you know. What do I do now about this awareness? It's just like problem solving and horsemanship. So getting back to, oh gosh, totally lost my train of thought there about being liberated, about living this way that I'm speaking about. If you never allow yourself to feel what you need to feel, you will continue the path of pushing. And when we push past how we feel, when we ignore it, when we keep busy, we're creating opposition, plain and simple. We are creating absolute opposition within ourselves, within our nervous system. So there's the science of it. I'm going to go to the more woo-woo side and talk about the chakra system. And this is ancient. This is also part of Taoism. Carl Jung, I mentioned this, I think, in the first podcast, was the first psychiatrist to ever talk about chakras. And he did a study, not a thesis per se, but in all of his consultations, psychiatric consultations with his clients, every one of them suffered from third chakra depletion, for the lack of a better word. It's either excessive or depleted. We're trying to find the middle. When you're looking to balance chakras, in all of them, we're either more excessive or we're more depleted in one or many. We're trying to find how to balance that out. Every one of his clients suffered with the third chakra. The second chakra, sorry, the water chakra, the second chakra, not the third, the water chakra. And there's many qualities of the water chakra. I'm just going to name a few, but it has a lot to do with intimacy and emotions and water and depth and drowning in your emotions and fear of intimacy. It's also where we have the womb in women and we carry babies. It's also responsible for a high level of sensuality, sexuality, creativity. It's where we ride, our pelvis, our core. A lot of people are very tight in their second chakra. It's closed off. Something to think about. So, the science of everything that I lived and I teach, both in horsemanship and personal development, has everything to do with the chakra system and the nervous system. And the nervous system is attached to your heart coherence. And of course, it's all attached to your brain, your neural pathways. So when you want to fix something within you or your horse, you need to rewire the nervous system, and it rewires the neural pathways. So we can strengthen areas that strengthen the neural pathways, which is the cognitive, the brain, the ability to problem solve, the ability to process information. But we have to start with the nervous system, and we have to start with the chakra system. So that's the introduction that I posted about this podcast. I'm now going to start to dive in. Let me see if we have any comments or questions real quick. No. Okay, so now we're going to start to dive in I'm going to outline some key principles of Dr. Dyer's spirituality, what he considers spiritual, and how it's kind of like the path to spirituality. And then I'll dive into the Tao Te Ching, and I'll keep weaving Examples. So Dr. Wayne Dyer believes spirituality is about prioritizing your connection to the divine source. Find that divine source within you too, or your higher power over material pursuits and the fear of death. Fear of death is huge. Very ego, it's all very ego driven, fear of death and material pursuits. He taught that you are an infinite spiritual being in a human experience, not the other way around. And that by aligning your thoughts with the universal source and practicing faith, he was very religious, you can access spiritual energy to transform your life. You can access spiritual energy. Access it means you must feel it. You must tap into it. It is an energy. Therefore, you can banish fear and live in a state of peace, acceptance, and abundance. Why do I say abundance? Because when you live in a place of peace, contentment, and acceptance, acceptance is a key word here, and that is part of the path of Taoism. You just accept where you're at and you go with the flow. You do feel very grateful. It is such a liberating feeling. I don't know how else to explain it. Just look at me. What do you guys think? Do I look angry? Do I sound angry? Do I look stressed? What do you think of all my videos on YouTube or in my courses? They're pretty damn happy. My horses are pretty happy to be with me. I'm always smiling. And every time I smile, it comes from deep within my soul. And my horses feel it. They feel that energy. It's authentic. It doesn't mean I wasn't crying earlier that day. It doesn't mean I don't have stress in my life. It doesn't mean I don't have hardship. But what is hardship? This gets me back to the point, the train of thought I lost a little while ago. I believe everything happens for a reason. Absolutely. And I love that my husband says, you rationalize that. You believe, so I believe everything happens for a reason. He says, I reason why everything happens. I don't. When I say I believe everything happens for a reason, I literally feel liberated. It gives me acceptance that, wow, stop blindly pushing past why this happened, questioning why this happened. It happened. Now, what are you going to do, Caroline? You have choices. And the first choice that I've come to learn, for the lack of a better word, is I don't question it. I look at it as a teaching opportunity. Why did this happen? And I'm talking about things that are negative, so to speak, or why did this negative thing happen to me? I'm using that as an example because I don't think like that anymore, but that's how it started. Why is this happening? Why does this keep happening to me? So the more I focused on that, why does this keep happening to me? I literally fed energy into it. And like Dr. Dyer's book, Change Your Thoughts, you change your life. It's like the law of attraction. So every time I kept feeding into, why does this keep happening to me? And beating myself up and questioning, or I kept like triggering myself and I kept feeding into that negativity, that negative energy. So different than your horsemanship. Every one of us, every time our horse doesn't do what we think they're supposed to do, we feed into that negativity. We feed into it either by questioning why our horse did that, I don't understand what's wrong, or questioning ourselves. Or we question both. Double jeopardy. Instead, I practice what I preach. I stopped. This is how it started, how I changed this. I stopped and went, I was aware of that thought process, that negative questioning, which just always put everything in a tailspin and brought things down. And I couldn't get out of it. It's like the law of attraction. Then other negative things kept happening and everything was just shit. Especially when you're working with horses in rehabilitation, they're going to feel that. That can't happen. And the horses have been my greatest teachers. So I believe my huge success with horses and not getting in this rut with horses. In my personal life, yes, but not with horses. Is because I've always prioritized my horses over me. Always. That's the first thing. I always prioritized what they needed over whatever funk I was in. That has really allowed me not to get stuck in my horsemanship. It's number one. And you can call that a secret for all of you. Start thinking about what they need and get the hell out of your head and your emotions that just keep crippling you, your lack of confidence, your self-esteem issues. Yeah, the more you keep thinking about it and talking about it, you keep feeling it. And then that energy just gets stronger. And it's not the energy you want. So the second thing is the awareness of, like, with the horses, it's always like, huh, why did that just happen? What are you trying to tell me? Now, my personal life is different. My ego got in the way all the time in my personal life. That's been really challenging for me. Horsemanship was not challenging for me. And I believe that number one, it had everything to do with just the way I viewed, perceived animals, people. I'm always going to think about you first before I think about myself. Maybe that's the way I was brought up too by my mom, and not a good thing either. There's some handicaps to that. Trust me, there's handicaps to that. You can become an enabler. You can become a doormat. You can become a peacemaker. Oh, yeah. But getting back to accepting when things happen and looking for the opportunity to learn from it. And sometimes shit just happens and you just go, hey, it was just a bad day. I've had bad days, bad weeks, bad months, and bad years, guys. But you know what? During those bad years, I had my darkest years a few years ago, and I stayed in darkness for 2 to 3 years. I stayed in darkness and I removed myself from my business. This was the beginning of 22, kind of the end of 21. Well, you could say, let's jump back. It really was in 21 to 23. So 21, 22, and a little bit into 23, 2.5 years of darkness. So much went wrong, so to speak, and bad between health crisis and loved ones dying, 2 and 4-legged, one after the other. I had so many deaths around me. And a huge abandonment from people I thought were friends, close, dear friends of mine. But at the same time, I say that, but also as the friendships were declining, I was aware that they weren't healthy anymore. So I'm not going to say that they abandoned me as much as I was creating stronger, healthier boundaries, but I didn't know that at the time. If you were to have asked me at the time, I would have felt like it was a trigger, total trigger. I would have felt like I was being abandoned and mutiny, stabbed in the back. But as I look back on the other side of the darkness, way on the other side now, completely on the other side, complete light. All of that happened for a reason. And some of it just happened, not all of it. Most of it happened for a reason, and some of it just happened. It was just life. It was just time for those beautiful beings to say goodbye and for me to let go. You have a choice. The hardest part is rewiring your nervous system and creating new neural pathways. So remember habits. Patterns of recognition are the same as habits. We can change patterns of recognition, habits, within 21 to 28 days. We can begin changing them and replacing them. But you have to make it a habit and a practice. So the key principles of Dr. Dyer's spirituality. Number one, prioritize the source. Dedicate your life to something greater than yourself. And that is the source. I dedicated my life to my work with horses and people. That is my dedication. Has it been easy? No. There have been so many times I've wanted to quit and have questioned why I'm doing this. But again, leading up to those dark years not too long ago, it's kind of like everything just came to it ahead in every way. And that's why it was so hard, because I literally shed a skin, another huge skin, as I call it. I shed my old self. I shed so many old ways of feeling and believing and being. And I had lost myself along the way. And I had burnout. I had severe burnout from work, and I was going through menopause, and that's real. I still am in menopause, but I take hormone therapy. I was not then. That's real. That's real. I thought I could fight it off with all sorts of homeopathic and natural stuff, and nothing worked. I had to go on hormone therapy. So it's dedicating your life to something greater than yourself. It's giving back. God, does that feel good? In any way you can. Any way you can. Helping a neighbor, rescuing an animal, working with your horse, your children, helping your elderly parents. Every day is an opportunity to go out of your way. It shouldn't even be out of your way. It should become second nature to just automatically help someone. Open the door for someone. Open the door for everyone. Smile. Smile. I've been asked this before, and I've thought a lot about it, and I think I understand why. I think I know the answer. Throughout my entire life, I have always had people go out of their way to open the door for me, no matter where I am. No matter where I am. And I could be in a city, I can be in a different country, I can be in the country, it can be any color person, any sex, it doesn't matter. For some reason, people jump and go out of their way to open the door for me my entire life. But my entire life, I've been called sunshine. My entire life, everyone's commented on my smile, my radiant, beautiful smile. I smile from the inside out. I believe that is why. Because I smile, because people can feel that I care. I show you with my eyes, I show you with my heart, and I show you with my smile. I am not that self-absorbed that I walk around brooding. I look like a totally different person when I'm stressed and upset, sad. I look ugly. I look totally different. Just smiling and honestly giving that unattached love. You're not expecting anything. You're just giving it. You're just giving it. Damn it. Give it. And don't expect anything in return. It is liberating. Same for your horsemanship. Same for your horsemanship. Number two, embrace spiritual beinghood. Understand that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, not just a human having an occasional spiritual moment, which is how most of us live. Oh, I felt that. That was spiritual for me. Or I have to go to yoga, or I have to go halfway around the world to India to have a spiritual experience. Every day is a spiritual experience for me. And I yearn for that. Like, it's again, like the law of attraction, is a connectivity. It's like once you keep connecting to these amazing spiritual moments that make you feel good, your chakra system gets stronger, your heart coherence gets stronger, your nervous system gets more regulated, and that energy attracts like energy. That frequency attracts like frequency. Cultivate faith. Affirm your belief in spirit's power and goodness. even when faced with doubts or seemingly insurmountable problems. Now, faith is, and I'm not going to get too deeply into this because I've got to wrap this podcast up. So I'm going to have a part two because I've got like 9 pages I still want to get through, and I'm only on page 1. But I've been giving a lot of examples. I believe in God, but I don't go to church. And the little that I've come to understand in my study of the Tao Te Ching, they do not, or Lao Tzu did not believe in order or rules or politics. No social order, no churches. I'm just going to leave that there because I have yet to understand that. So that's where there is a polarity or its opposites. Overcome fear. Number 4, confront your fears of death and endings. And also, Dr. Dyer was a therapist his whole career. So, from what I've come to understand, is like Carl Jung saw the fear or the depletion of chakra 2, the water chakra, saw that in just about every client of his. Dr. Dyer also saw the fear of death in all of his clients. So that's where that's coming from. Confront your fears of death and endings. Endings. It's hard to let go, isn't it? It's hard to let go. I understand that. As facing them directly. So let's talk about that because this was a little aha as I said that. I said in a podcast a couple years ago, and it was in my Everything Horses and More podcast. And it was over the death of one of my horses, one of my Trinity that's behind me. Must have been Legend, could have been Sundance. And I believe this, but it's changed now because I was in darkness then too, because I had so many deaths. I always would say, when you love hard, you hurt hard. And I still agree with that. The difference today is I feel that pain and it rips through me. I mean, it rips right through me and I will scream and bawl, but I don't hang on to it. And it's not because I purposefully will it away or want to be rid of it or walk away from it or don't feel it anymore. I've gotten to a point where I allow it to come through me, feel it in its fierceness and ferocity. I'm not afraid of that pain because at the same time, I'm also going to let that go. My love for all of the beings that have left me, this earthly world. They have not left me, but they've left this plane 2- and 4-legged. They're always with me. And they're just not physically with me anymore. That did not happen overnight. The death of my Trinity became a long journey, about 4 years, because each one, Smokey passed first in 19 or 20. Then Legend suddenly, I think, in 22, and Sundance in 23. In addition to family, friends passing away and loved ones. But when they left me, I was so codependent. And I realized it, but I didn't. I realized it, but I didn't. And them leaving this earth, what am I going to do now? Really, I didn't want to cripple my next generation of horses. I didn't want to cripple, nor have I Zor, not going to say Lovey. That's a whole nother podcast. Or Blue, or Joey. Didn't want to cripple them by needing them so much for my emotional safety and security and guidance. Transcend materialism. I think we understand that. Align your thoughts with spirit. Remember the central principle: as you think, so shall you be. What you focus your thoughts on expands into your life. Be so careful of the power of intention. One of the most important principles, I have so many in my horsemanship that apply to life as well. We begin my work with the power of three: the power of intention, the power of position, and the power of movement. And the power of intention, oh my Lord, that's huge with horsemanship, but it's also with leadership. And so the power of intention becomes choose your thoughts and choose your focus, because your horse is going to feel it. They're going to feel your thoughts and they're going to follow your focus. Seek spiritual guidance. Be open to receiving spiritual guidance and implementing it, even if it doesn't align with your preconceived ideas of how life should be. Tune into the divine. Consciously shift your focus from lower frequencies of materialism to the higher frequencies of God or spirit. So, spirit, the source, also is in everyone. It's like I said, put someone else first, but not to the point where you feel bad, for lack of a better word. Caring about someone else's needs, you shouldn't be in a position where you lose your boundaries. I can care about how you feel, even if I don't agree with you, even if I don't like the way it feels or the way you're speaking to me. Gosh, we have such a decline period in the world. I'm not even going to say in our culture, American culture, or in our American society. Just across the world, we have just declined. We've declined in our ability in humanity. Just put it, period, in humanity. I've always said, I believe horses are not from this world. I don't believe they're from this planet. I believe that they have been sent here to save us, to show us humanity, and to save us. They're great teachers. I'll give them that. Practice gratitude. How often, how often do you fill yourself up to where you feel, don't think it. You feel grateful. How many of you know what that feels like? How does that feel in your body? How does joy feel? How does happiness feel? When I feel grateful, I feel consumed in a beautiful heaviness that makes me feel just so joyful. Or to me, joyful and happiness is more giddy and light. My gratitude is so deep. Like it's this heartfelt feeling of, I love you and thank you. Thank you. I feel so grateful to have you in my life, to be in this space. It's a beautiful day. Thank you for not raining today. Thank you for not being too hot today. You can be grateful about so many things, so many things. Oh, I got out of bed and I don't hurt as much today. You just fill yourself up with that. Dedicate yourself to service. Exactly. Your service every day could be getting your office mates coffee. What can I get for you today? It feels good, for the lack of a better word, to make someone else happy. Recognize your divinity. Understand that you are a manifestation of God, of the source of spirit. We are all spiritual beings. And your life is a way for spirit to reveal itself on earth. That's going to be another podcast. Purpose. What is the purpose? What is our purpose here on earth? Everybody thinks they have to have some grand purpose. And we lose the ability to connect even to the simplest, smallest of actions when we think like that. Our purpose right now, my purpose could just be to smile, to just project happiness in the hopes that others feel that. That's a chain of events right there. There's purpose in everything you do. One of, I know, the deepest teachings of my work with horses is the purpose of everything you do. So basically, as an example, as we wrap this podcast up, is when I have a horse on a lead rope, they've got their halter, they're attached to me with the lead rope. There is always purpose in everything I do with that horse. And the first purpose is always related to how I make that horse feel. So if I have a horse that is easily traumatized, triggered, easily upset, and I need to begin teaching it, I'm always going to have purpose in everything I do, purpose in the way I smile, purpose in the way the energy comes through me and through that lead rope to the horse and how they feel. That energy has purpose. It's not just back up and get out of my space. That's the lesson for today. It's how do I ask you to back up and how do you receive it and how can I help you feel good about it? There's purpose. How can I help you feel good about it? Because when a horse feels good about what they're learning, just like a human, they're open, they become open to learning and they learn. Horses are also smart, they're prey animals. They can also learn through deep conditioning. And that's where you dumb the horse down, you create an obedient servant, learned helplessness, push button, dead broke. We don't want that. Horses can have and keep their personalities and have a voice and still express themselves and still choose to participate with you in everything you ask them without losing their spirit. I'm going to end today's podcast on that note. I will do a part 2 and where we will talk about the rest of this podcast on a spiritual awakening. And I'll be talking more about the book on the changes, the I changes, Tao Te Ching, and more about Taoism in that process, and more about in part 2 the steps to spiritual awakening. We're just opening Pandora's box, so to speak, going down the rabbit hole right now. I'll leave you with this. Spiritual awakening is not a cognitive concept. It's not a philosophical debate. It's something you feel. It is an unconscious, subconscious feeling that overpowers you in a positive, amazing, and beautiful way that changes you because of the way you feel. And in that feeling, the closer you get to your senses, the closer you get to your senses, the closer you get to your intuitive side. And the closer, the stronger the intuition becomes, the easier it is to speak the language of Effortless, the easier it is to read your horse, the easier it is to communicate telepathically with your horse. But the process doesn't begin here. The process begins within you. And that is what I teach. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. And may you always be one with horses. And I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm going to try and have the next podcast next week. My student from Israel, Nina, is leaving. And I think I'm going to be actually doing an Everything Horses and More podcast with her next week. I know we are. So she can talk about her journey to me, how she found me, and what it's been like to be here for almost, it'll be 21 days before she leaves. And her experiences here. It's amazing. I definitely have seen many spiritual moments going on for her, the spiritual awakening, definitely. And she's just an amazing human being inside and out. So that's going to happen next week. I'll definitely get a post together to announce it at the Everything Horses and More podcast. All right, take care and thank you.